I made a new Old School RuneScape account to explain the story of every quest, all in an effort to become your new favorite second monitor content creator, and ideally to be noticed by Josh Strive Hayes. Meet MedioLore, my new main account that has no restrictions besides male pattern baldness. It took some waiting, but I finally secured the money to acquire a membership. Shout out to my mom. I will be putting this privilege to good use and unearth all lore that Old School RuneScape has to offer. This is MedioLore. We're continuing our adventure just beyond the gates of Taverley with a quest that immediately proves that whatever the quest developers were paid, it wasn't enough. The Witch's House is a standalone quest where a scary looking witch has stolen a ball from an even scarier looking child. It's up to us to get it back, though that might not be as straightforward as it seems, since the witch is engaged with experiments that spit in the face of the Geneva suggestions. When stumbling into Taverley for the first time, Medio comes across an inconsolable child. He kicked his football, or soccer ball if you're wrong, over the hedge, and as a lesson to the child, the witch chose to keep the ball locked up in her shed. Medio had heard enough, and decided it was totally justifiable to engage in breaking and entering. RuneScape's law enforcement was all over the place anyway. A spare key can be found under the plant pot in front of her house. It seems that the witch might be in the market for some improved security measures. And speaking of security, let me introduce today's sponsor. When Medio enters the house, the first thing he does is snoop in the diary of the witch. From this, we can infer quite a few things. 1. The witch is doing some experimentation on live creatures, likely without the proper ethical clearance. 2. Professor Odenstein, who we know from the quest Ernst the Chicken, has put in place a security system where one has to finesse a mouse with some cheese. When the mouse is distracted, a magnet must then be connected with a metal device placed into its back. This not only invokes the wrath of PETA, it also unlocks the door. The entries in the journal come from the month of Pentember, suggesting that Gielinor uses an entirely different calendar system. If you really stretch that piece of information, it means that canonically, Julius Caesar doesn't exist in RuneScape's lore. Now the challenge in this quest is getting to the witch's shed. She has a spare key in the fountain that can only be obtained if you are able to sneak past her undetected. If she sees you, you'll have to start over and bring another piece of cheese. I have played RuneScape for about 2/3 of my life now, and I have never ever been caught, and I'm not gonna start now. The Witch's Fountain is actually quite peaceful if you need to calm down for some reason, and it would definitely be in my top 10 smoke spots. Alright, with that shit out of the way, it was time to face off against the Experiment, who is actually named Fritz. The Experiment first form is that of a Scavid, which is interesting because according to the wiki, the Scavids released quite some time after the Witch's House, and we'll cover them during the Watchtower quest. The second form is a spider that hits like a truck, and the third form is a bear that can be safe spotted. The last one is a wolf that can also be safe spotted. If you try to retrieve the ball before dealing with the Experiment, you'll be burnt alive in eternal hellfire for your sins. Once you've defeated all forms in succession, you'll be awarded the privilege of retrieving the ball. But the challenge doesn't stop there. You'll have to escape the garden without being seen, which you'll only mess up if you're an idiot, after which you can give the ball back to the boy. Completion awards you with a metric ton of hit points experience. This might be because this quest was actually a heartwarming adventure revolving around a selfless act of kindness. But I choose to believe the hit points XP is gained from the pain of having to start over after being caught. Druidic Ritual is a quest where you learn to make narcotics and unlock the herblore skill. This quest can be started by talking to Cake Mix, a druid of the god of balance, Guthix. He is found at Stonehenge at home. Cake Mix tells us that these stone circles have been built by druids of Guthix 800 years ago. This circle is one of the two remaining ones. The other one is to the south of Varrock, which was corrupted by dark wizards to summon Delrith, presumably for BDSM purposes by the looks of it. It's up to us to purify that stone circle with magic. To this end, Medio is sent to Zenfew. Zenfew is in the middle of preparing a purification ritual to get rid of the evil dark magic that plagues the stone circle. For this, he'll need 4 types of meat as an offering to Gothics. This means that Gothics himself doesn't abide by veganism. Not just any meat will do though. In order for this to work, Zenfew needs Medio to travel into the dungeon next to Taverley and put the meat into the Cauldron of Thunder. And this is the only time in the game you can make some elusive items, such as the enchanted chicken. Bringing these items to Zenfew will allegedly result in the Varrokian stone circle being purified. In reality, nothing changes. Despite this, Cakemix is grateful enough to teach Medio the herblore skill, allowing for the creation of useful potions and detrimental poisons. The possibilities are only limited by the imagination of the brewer. Take Zenfew for example. Not only is he an expert of purification, he also has his own healing potion known as Zenfew Serum. This inspired Medio to have his own branded narcotic. Introducing Medio's Methamphetamine. Fishing Contest is a really short quest about befriending even shorter people. Any RuneScape player can be placed into one of 2 categories. People who openly admit to dying on the White Wolf Mountain the first time they try to cross it, and disgusting liars. But there is a way to circumvent the trek over the mountain altogether, the White Wolf Tunnel. This underground network of dwarven ingenuity connects the peaceful hamlet of Taverley to the fisher's town of Catherby. The tunnels themselves are home to a number of dwarves, a minecart to the dwarven city of Kaldegrim, and a stereotype-affirming pub. Entry to the tunnels is limited to the mountain dwarfs. When Medio asks if he can use the tunnels as a shortcut, the dwarf retorts by asking how he would like it if he came and used his home as a shortcut. Medio would have been really impressed by this, since he's homeless. In any case, the dwarves only let their friends pass, and when Medio asks how to win friends and influence dwarves, he states that Medio first has to earn his trust. He can do that by acquiring a gold artifact for the dwarf, the first place trophy for the Hamster fishing contest. According to the dwarf though, their people are notoriously bad at fishing. This is racial stereotype! And they sent Medio in their stead. Medio knew a thing or two about fishing, as well as breaking and entering, so he squeezed into Magruber Woods and secured himself the finest piece of bait these parts of RuneScape had to offer. He was then ready to fish his little heart out. The competition was fierce however. The biggest threat to Medio's imminent victory was the sinister stranger, a definitely not vampire by the name of Vlad. His dialogue suggests he is from the eastern part of Europe. Racial stereotype! I like how they just put pixelated shades on Count Drainer's model and called it a day. Vlad gets placed at the best fishing spot in the lake, and if nothing is done about that, he'll end up winning the contest. So Medio, using tricks he learned in the past from a raging alcoholic vampire slayer, always kept a steady supply of garlic on hand. He stuffed the cloth into the sewage pipe next to Vlad, who immediately started shitting himself in the resulting aftermath. In solidarity to the other contestants, Vlad was placed downwind. This freed up the best fishing spot for Medio, who used the bait he acquired from Magruber's Wood. The catch? A giant carp that cannot be acquired anywhere else in the game. If this doesn't win the contest, I'll kill myself and then all of you. So, proudly showcasing his achievement to the judges, Medio's giant carp won the day. And this is how he befriended the dwarves in the White Wolf Tunnel, who let him use the network as a shortcut from now on. Many alcohol-fueled nights would be had in the pub underneath. In the shadows though, Vlad was plotting his revenge for fishing contests too. The ultimate conclusion to the vampire questline probably. In Dwarf Cannon, you help out some dwarves, and in return, you'll receive the privilege to use weapons of mass destruction. Captain Logov is a commander for the Blackguard, and his name also serves as a reminder to touch grass every once in a while. His unit has been besieged by local goblins, and it needs all the help he can get. To this end, he offers Medio an honorary spot on the Blackguard, a privilege reserved for only the most elite and well-trained dwarves. It seems that Logov was unaware of the depths of Medio's incompetence. In any case, Medio accepts the offer and is tasked with making repairs to the outer gates. This went about as well as you might expect from someone with a crafting level that doesn't hit double digits. 5 hours later, Medio finally manages to finish all repairs and tells log off he's gonna log off, not realizing that assignment to the Blackguards is a lifelong commitment. The last time he had one of those, he found out that his RuneScape girlfriend was actually a man who swindled him out of his money. Anyway, log off tasks Medio with checking up on his lieutenant Gilip in the watchtower to the south, as he should have reported back by now. But war is hell and the lieutenant had succumbed to the savage goblins. The right thing to do was to take the fallen soldier's remains to his captain. For some reason, you can also destroy this corpse. Logoth is shocked at Gilip's passing, but relieved to find that there was only one body. This means that Gilip's son, named Lok, might still be alive. It's up to Medio to find him, so he sets off into the great unknown and sends some goblins back to hell. It's what Gilip would have wanted. After searching for a bit, Medio stumbles on Lok, who is tiny, even by dwarf standards, and he also looks uncanny as f***. For some ungodly reason, Jagex cannot seem to get children right in this game. Logoth is happy to hear at least Lok survived. But the goblins are relentless, and the Dwarf Cannon that is supposed to keep them at bay is broken. Even the most genius of dwarven engineers cannot seem to fix it, so as a Hail Mary attempt to turn the tide, Medio is supposed to succeed where all the best of the dwarves have failed. The cannon can be fixed with a small selection of basic tools, which leads me to conclude that if the best of the dwarves are unable to do this, the dwarves are stupid as f***. Continuing on with the story, now that the cannon is fixed, it needs ammunition, but neither Logoth nor his subordinates know how to work the cannon. To this end, Medio is sent across the northern hemisphere to talk with Nulodian, the chief weapons developer of the Blackguard. He would stand trial in The Hague for crimes against humanity years later. But for now, Nulodian explains that a mold is needed to fire the cannon. Since Medio is also not particularly gifted in the brain department, Nulodian has to show him that you don't fire the mold, but rather use it to smelt cannonballs, who then serve as the ammunition for the cannon. Nulodian gives Medio an entire tome of 100 pages with notes on how to do this. Heroically, Medio returns to Logoth. Grateful for the help, the Dwarven captain awards Medio with the privilege of buying and using a Dwarven multi-cannon. Had he known then what he knew now, he never would have put Medio in his employ. On his deathbed, he stated that he never stopped feeling guilty for what happened to all those poor guards in Valador Square. And that's the story of Dwarf Cannon. All in all, I gotta say, it was a blast. Murder Mystery is a story about a murder in a fall-themed town where something is not quite right. As such, it's the closest thing RuneScape has to a Twin Peaks reference. This quest is started by speaking with the guard outside Sinclair's mansion. Up until recently, the Sinclairs resided in Camelot Castle, but after the Knights of the Round Table warped into RuneScape for some reason, King Arthur took over the castle and gave Sinclair a mansion to the north of Sears Village in exchange. They reached this agreement with the help of the then ruling monarch of Candoring, King Ulthus. While the mansion is decked the f*** out, Sinclair's children never forgave the man for this trade. Status is all that matters to these little shits. And all of them are after the Sinclair's family fortune. Now that Sinclair Sr. has been mysteriously murdered, any of these ill-behaved nepo babies could have done the deed. And it's up to us to get to the bottom of this. Every good murder mystery has a unique twist, and in this case, it's that the killer will be different for each player. We can learn a lot from the gossip just down the road about these guys. Anna is a femme fatale, Bob has the most British addiction of all in tea, Carol is stupid and has been swindled out of a lot of money, David has anger issues, Elizabeth suffers from kleptomania, and Frank has problems with gambling. It's not easy to deduce who the killer is, as all of them have motive and means, though I would always suspect Frank first. But we can't accomplish anything on gut feeling alone, so when Medio makes his way into the house, he goes to the scene of the crime. It appears that Papa Sinclair has been brutally stabbed, but Medio wouldn't be a good detective if he took everything at face value. The dagger used for the murder is too brittle to stab anything. And Medio deduced that Sinclair did in fact not die from the Birmingham treatment. The dagger served as a decoy and was put there by the killer. What then would have caused his demise? It was at this moment Medio took notice of a smell that reminded him of the average RuneScape player. Y'all, it stank. The putrid smell came from a container near the crime scene. Medio took the pungent pot with him. Perhaps this would prove handy later. Lastly, there was a smashed window at the scene of the crime. In it, a colored thread could be found. The color of this thread will match with the killer's pants. Now normally, you have to go through each of the Sinclair siblings' belongings and take some fly paper and flour to get the prints of these items and see if you can find a fingerprint match with the dagger. Pretty impressive stuff, since this forensic technique has only become widespread in the last 1.5 century or so. Since we already have the colored thread, we can limit our search result to people with blue pants. When looking at the fingerprints, there was an exact match with Elizabeth's silver needle and the criminal's dagger. This served Medio well, as these two were beefing like crazy. So, Medio had circumstantial evidence, but it wasn't enough. The gossip outside told him there was a poison salesman lurking around the Sinclair's estate. That would explain the pungent pot at the crime scene. If Sinclair didn't succumb to London lunacy, then maybe he ingested poison. So Medio made his way into town and interrogated the poison salesman. He is so good at his job that he sold out his entire stock to all of the Sinclair children. Elizabeth was still on Medio's shit list though, so he asked her what she could have used the poison for. Elizabeth then goes on record to state that she used the poison to get rid of the mosquitoes in the fountain. But when Medio investigates, he finds the fountain to be infested with the malaria-carrying motherfuckers. The poison was not in the fountain after all, but rather in Mr. Sinclair's stomach lining. So we have DNA proof, clothing proof, and Elizabeth's alibi doesn't hold up. I'd say we can close yet another case. Two noteworthy things before we wrap up. The guard states that murder is a rare occurrence in Gielinor, but from personal experience, Medio had another opinion on the matter. Also, Elizabeth will be placed under house arrest until she has her day in court. This might not be the last we'll see of the Sinclair family. So that's gonna do it for our adventure today, but we're only just beginning. If you wanna get in on the action, subscribe right now and you'll be the first to know when new shenanigans have been had. In return, I promise I will use this platform solely to champion the chef's outfit being added to Old School RuneScape. Thanks! I hope you have a good day and a good life, but since we're all still out here playing RuneScape, that might be wishful thinking.